You are listening to Processing Trauma Out Loud, conversations about trauma and healing from two women who are doing the work.
Hey everyone, it's Kandace and Sher with Processing Trauma Out Loud. Sher and I are back for part 2 on a series that we're doing about just the goodness and the beauty and sometimes the hardness of being in relationships, especially small groups of friends. And of course, even just one-on-one relationships. But last week, Sher and I talked about an experience that I went through at our group retreat that we had a few weeks ago in Galveston, Texas, at the ocean. And today we're going to share. I'm going to just talk to you about what happened for you at our group time when you got triggered and then really set in some dysregulation for a while, and thankfully did come out of that and was able to come fully present and just experience the goodness of our time together. So how are you feeling about sharing that today?
Yeah, I feel good about it. I'm glad it's not live so that after we're finished, we can actually decide if we want to air it. But I feel good. I feel like I want to talk about it because I think this kind of thing happens a lot and people don't even recognize what it is that's happening. And sometimes I've heard so many people say that they've gone on trips with friends and that like they come back and they're just never friends again. And we do get triggered and dysregulated in those kind of closed spaces. And so I think it just feels really good to talk about this.
Yeah. So yeah, we were on a trip. There were 4 of us. We were spending 5 days together on the beach in Galveston, Texas. Our dear friend Sandra had set all that up. It was so lovely. And we had group time each day, had free time, and did some different things. But I think this was day 2, if I remember right.
Yep.
And there's kind of a flurry of activity going on. And you really you were just enjoying being on the deck. We had the ocean view but kind of people are doing other things. And I believe it was Lisa and I had decided to go out for coffee. We did invite you to go, but you really just wanted to stay there.
Yep.
And so, but when we left, that's when the triggering, like I think you said, when you saw us walking away.
Yeah.
Do you want to pick it up from there?
Yeah, yes, I was in full agreement. I blessed you to go. I didn't have any sense of wishing you weren't or, anything like that. But as I saw you walking away, it's almost like something happened inside of me. And I felt this catch of, oh, they're all leaving. Maybe I should have gone with them, or maybe just a little bit of panic. But then I felt like, no, I want to be here. And so I decided to go for a long walk on the beach, which I love to walk alone, even on the beach. And so I walked down, I came back, and I thought you would be there when I got back, and you weren't there. And so I think I started to get a little more dysregulated, and I didn't understand. I think I knew that it was a part, but I wasn't sure exactly why I was dysregulated. It didn't make sense to me that I was feeling what I was feeling. And then as some time went by, which to me began to feel like an eternity, and I think I brought it up later, you were gone so long. And, I think somebody said, well, I think it was 2.5 hours. But for me in that space, it felt like an eternity. And what I began to recognize is that some of my very young exiles felt abandoned. Just this abandonment wound that goes very young for me, pre-verbal even, was activated, I believe, when I saw you walking away. And it wasn't anything that anybody, intended, and it wasn't anything that even I knew was going to happen. It just hit. And once I was in it, my exiles were hanging on for dear life. And I felt like I went through this process of being in self and recognizing what was happening and trying to offer care, but then boom, plummeting again. And I was just really caught in this place of swirling that I couldn't seem to get out of. And by the time you came back, I was feeling very protected and feeling a little bit withdrawn and trying to act like everything was okay. But I was trying to hold it together because in my mind, I knew nothing was intended. I knew that. I was confident of that.
Yeah.
But my parts were swirling and I couldn't
Right.
get my feet on the ground.
So you're in your amygdala, right?
Yeah.
Right. You're in your implicit memory
Yep.
where your body is saying you're being abandoned.
Yeah.
And so we came back and I saw your face.
Yeah.
Like I saw you
Mm-hmm.
and moved towards you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And you told me, you'd be fine. I had a little bit of a war. How far do I want to push here?
Mm-hmm.
But I did go ahead and step back. And that's, I think a little bit later, we had gone down to the beach.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that? Just going down to the beach?
And you had even offered, you said, when you're ready, I think I let you know I'm really struggling with something. And you said, when you're ready to talk about it, I'm here. And yeah, so then later we kind of met up on the beach and.
Yeah. And I want to say to our listeners about that, Cher. So you're in your active trauma right there. So it is. Okay, when we say, like when we move towards someone in that place and they're being, their abandoned place is kind of driving the bus.
Yeah.
There really isn't a lot of language that other person, especially with as young as you went,
Yeah.
right, could have had. And I don't want to share more. I want you to share because you brought this up with your coach, but what your coach said made all the more sense,
Right.
of what you needed to get out of that.
Yeah, because I was talking with Lori about my coach Lori, about how I felt like I was in self, in my highest self, in my adult self, and I saw this stuff going on, almost like it was off to the side here. And I felt like I was trying to offer care to my young parts, like we're safe and I see you and I recognize the pain. Like I understand that this pain of abandonment goes very young for me. And so I was trying to offer all of that care, but I was asking my coach, Lori, why couldn't I why wasn't I able to bring that regulation when I feel like I saw it very clearly? And she just said, we can learn from your experience. Like now we know that for you, when you are in this place, you have to have someone with you. You need to see their face. You need to feel their touch. You need to know that your body is not left alone to survive. Because that's where I go. I go to this place of I'm just trying to survive. And so I think then when I came down to the beach and I was able to say, okay, I want to just share a little bit about where I'm at. And you leaned in and we didn't talk real long. I shared some with you and I felt like, okay, I can breathe a little bit here. I was able to catch my breath and to get a little bit more into self. I think after that, we went into the water. I think all of us went into the water and we just played for a while and that was good for me. But still, I wasn't able to really shake it. I think it just was lingering with me throughout that whole evening, really. And I even woke up a couple of times in the night and just felt like I was compassionate and I was curious with my exiles, but I really wanted I wanted to get free from this bind that they were in. And I was really struggling
Yeah.
to get that.
Yeah, and I believe, wasn't it your time to go the next morning? Yes. So,
Yeah.
perfect timing because it was your morning. And yeah, I think I said I feel like there's some things that we need to, because you were just going to jump into a story.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, share before you do the story. I I wonder if there's anything we need to talk about.
Yeah.
And that just blew it
Yeah.
wide open.
My protectors were really working hard to protect me. I knew that I had my 90 minutes. That was my time where everybody's faces would be turned toward me and I could bring whatever I wanted. And I was struggling to, I really wanted to self-protect. I felt super vulnerable in that moment. And so and I think I said, I'm kind of been struggling with, my young parts feeling abandoned, but I don't know if I can really go there and I can do this story. And then you invited me toward what would it be like to let us in. And so then I just went there and shared what had happened. And I think we had to kind of talk through people feeling like they had done something wrong. And I I I needed to assure everybody, no, it's not that you even did something wrong. And I feel like this is an important point to make, Kandace,
Mhm.
that the people close to us, when we get dysregulated, the people close to us are going to feel like we are blaming them, like they did something that they have to undo or they have to change or and I mean, and sometimes it is that someone has done something that triggered us, right? And so, but in this case, it clearly, and I was very clear on no one did anything wrong. And so I think once I really had to assure you, I had to know that you knew. I wasn't blaming you. Then we were able to begin to peel back the layers of share what's going on. And because you know my stories, you could usher me back to the place where my little baby girl
Mhm.
saw the back of my mother walking away time after time after time when I needed her attunement, when I needed her face, when I needed her to help regulate me, and instead I saw the back of her walking away. And you were able to meet me there and to help
Yeah.
those young parts just open to goodness and care that you could offer me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking of why we're doing these episodes right now, just listening to you. Okay. I think you said this in our first episode. Share, you could just, stay home all day every day and just be as happy as a lark, and it's in these group settings where we will get triggered. And because you were able to bring it, right,
Yeah,
you also experienced more healing.
so much.
And for our listeners that are listening to us process,
Mhm.
that this really is an invitation. Like we're sharing our stories and our experiences because there is, and we've known this for a long time, that we have a loneliness epidemic.
Yeah,
Okay. We are more connected than ever, and we are more lonely than ever.
yeah,
And when you have an experience like you had,
yeah,
right, you got to experience, oh, I am so not alone.
yeah, yeah,
I have people coming after me. I
yeah.
have people who want to be with me. I'm not a burden.
Mm,
I'm not too much.
mm,
My vulnerability isn't going to be used against me.
yeah.
And this is how we heal. We get wounded in community, we heal in community. Henry Nouwen, he was known for teaching people the necessity of silence and solitude and community. He said we can't be whole without either one.
Right.
And so, yeah, I just thank you for sharing that story, which I'm imagining, maybe even sharing it. Did it feel vulnerable to share it, or were you okay?
It is vulnerable. Like it's a vulnerable place for me because even though, yes, I experienced more healing and yes, I've talked it through with my coach too. And these parts are getting more love. Like the access to them has been opened up even further. And yet, inviting others to see that it is vulnerable. And I think the thing that I want to say is what invites me to want to share it is the fact that what we are wanting to say here is that we need each other in these deep spaces. And that a lot of times we can be even surrounded by people, even friends, who we see regularly and talk with and do stuff with, but they don't know our story. And sometimes we don't know the deeper places of our own story. And so I think for me, what feels purposeful in sharing this today is to say, find some people, find your people, we say this all the time, Kandace, but get a coach. It is the best place to begin. Get a coach and begin with one story. Begin to let somebody see you. And then eventually find a group or start with a group. If you're brave enough, start with a group. But we have to have I need other people in this space. I now know, like when my abandonment wound gets triggered in the future, I hope that I will be very quick to connect with someone and say, I need you to be with me in this place. Do you have some time?
Yeah, and if you don't say that, because you may not, that our experience, because you are willing to bring it to us, we're going to say, Cher, we are going to be with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, obviously we would respect any boundaries that you set, but we're probably going to push a little bit more.
Yeah. 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 And we have that. That's the kind of trust we have where we're inviting each other to press in. Yeah. Because that's the kind of love. I'm going to use the love. This is love to our wounded places. And love is the thing that covers shame. And love is the thing that brings the healing that we need.
Yeah. So good. Thank you again for sharing. And yeah, let's come back next week and let's just talk. I don't know what you think about this. Let's just go ahead and talk about integrating this understanding of witness with internal family systems and why having even a basic understanding of that can make all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
Sound good? Okay.
Sounds great.
Okay, love you, friend.
Love you too.